Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Satsvarup Das Goswami, Volume 1, A Lifetime in Preparation, India 1896 to 1965. Chapter 11, The Dream Come True. So Prabhupada is in Delhi, Chippiwada, or traveling between Vrindavan and Delhi and getting the books printed, distributed, working so hard. In January of 1964, Bhaktivedanta Swami was granted an interview with Indian Vice President Zakir Hussain, who, although a Muslim, had written an appreciation of Bhaktivedanta Swami's Srimad Bhagavatam. As Dr. Hussain cordially received the author at the presidential palace, Bhaktivedanta Swami spoke of the importance of Srimad Bhagavatam in the cause of love of Godhead. But Dr. Hussain wanted to know how love of Godhead could help humanity. The question put by ruler to Sadhu was filled with philosophical implications, but the vice president's busy schedule of meetings did not permit Bhaktivedanta Swami to answer fully. For the vice president, the interview was a gesture of appreciation, recognizing the Swami for his work on behalf of India's Hindu cultural heritage. And Bhaktivedanta Swami humbly accepted the ritual. So it was only a formality, which I understand they don't have much time. Later, however, he wrote Dr. Hussain a long letter answering the questions he had not had time to answer during their brief meeting. Muslims or Muslims also admit, he wrote, that there is nothing greater than Allah. The Christians also admit that God is great. The human society must learn to obey the laws of God. He reminded Dr. Hussain of India's great cultural asset, the Vedic literature. The Indian government could perform the best welfare work for humanity by disseminating Vedic knowledge in a systematic way. Srimad Bhagavatam was produced in India. It was a substantial contribution India could offer to the world. In March of 1964, Krishna Pandit, Bhaktivedanta Swami's sponsor at the Radha Krishna temple in Chippiwada, arranged for him to reside for a few months at the Sri Radha Vallabhji temple in the nearby Roshanpura Nai Sadak neighborhood. There he could continue his writing and publishing, but he would also be giving a series of lectures. Krishna Pandit provided Bhaktivedanta Swami about 1,500 rupees for his maintenance. On Bhaktivedanta Swami's arrival at Sri Radha Vallabhji temple, the manager distributed notices inviting people to take full advantage of the presence of a Vaishnava sadhu. As resident Acharya, Bhaktivedanta Swami held morning and evening discourses at the temple without reducing his activities of writing and printing. In June, Bhaktivedanta Swami got the opportunity to meet Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri. The meeting had been arranged by Doladram Khanna, a wealthy jeweler who was a trustee of the Chippiwada temple, and had often met with Bhaktivedanta Swami there. An old friend of Prime Minister Shastri's since his youth, when they had attended the same yoga club, Mr. Khanna arranged the meeting as a favor to Bhaktivedanta Swami. Let the Prime Minister meet a genuine sadhu, Mr. Khanna thought. It was a formal occasion in the gardens of the Parliament building, and the Prime Minister was meeting a number of guests. Prime Minister Shastri, dressed in white kurta and dhoti and a Nehru hat, and surrounded by aides, received the elderly sadhu. Bhaktivedanta Swami, looking scholarly in his spectacles, stepped forward and introduced himself and his book, Srimad Bhagavatam. As he handed the Prime Minister a copy of Volume 1, the photographer snapped a photo of the author and the Prime Minister smiling over the book. The next day, Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote to Prime Minister Shastri. He soon received a reply, personally signed by the Prime Minister. Dear Swamiji, many thanks for your letter. I am indeed grateful to you for presenting a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam to me. I do realize that you are doing valuable work. It could be a good idea if the libraries in the government institutions purchase copies of this book. Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote back to the Prime Minister, requesting him to buy books for Indian institutions. Mr. R.K. Sharma of the Ministry of Education subsequently wrote back, confirming that they would take 50 copies of Volume 2, just as they had done Volume 1. To concentrate on completing Volume 3, Bhaktivedanta Swami returned to the Radha Damodar temple. These were the last chapters of the first canto, dealing with the advent of the present age of Kali. There were many verses foretelling society's degradation and narrating how the great king Parikshit had staved off Kali's influence by his strong Krishna-conscious rule. In his purport, Bhaktivedanta Swami wrote that the government could not check corruption unless it ruled out the 4 basic principles of irreligion, which are meat-eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. You cannot check all these evils of society simply by statutory acts of police vigilance, but you have to cure the disease of mind by the proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahminical culture or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. We must always remember that false pride, undue attachment for women or association with them, an intoxicating habit of all description will cripple the human civilization from the path of factual peace. However, the people may go on clamoring for such peace of the world. And that is true. What kind of peace or friendship we are talking about when we don't follow these principles? Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So illicit sex means no austerity. Mercy, meat eating means no mercy. Gambling means no truthfulness. And intoxication means no cleanliness. So if these 4 pillars of sinful life are there, how can we have peace and prosperity in the world? Cannot happen. To raise funds for Volume 3, Bhaktivedanta Swami decided to try Bombay. He traveled there in July and stayed at the Prem Kutir Dharamshala, a free ashram, Srila Prabhupada. At Prem Kutir, they received me very nicely. I was going to sell my books. Some of them were criticizing. What kind of sannyasi? He is making business, book selling? Not the authorities said this, but some of them. I was writing my book then also. Then I became a guest for 15 days with a member of the Dalmia family. One of the brothers told me that he wanted to construct a little cottage at his house. You can live there. I'll give you a nice cottage. I thought, no, it's not good to be fully dependent and patronized by a Vishayi or materialist. But I stayed for 15 days and he gave me exclusive use of a typewriter for writing my books. Bhaktivedanta Swami made his rounds of the institutions and booksellers in Bombay. He now had an advertisement showing himself with Prime Minister Shastri, and he also had the Prime Minister's letter and the Ministry of Education's purchase order for 50 volumes. Still, he was getting only small orders. Then he decided to visit Sumati Morarji, head of the Scindia Steamship Company. He had heard from his godbrothers in Bombay that she was known for helping sadhus and had donated to the Bombay Gaudiya Mutt. He had never met her, but he will remember the 1958 promise by one of her officers to arrange half-fare passage for him to America. Now he wanted her help for printing Srimad Bhagavatam. So this lady, Sumati Morarji, she played a big role in Prabhupada's coming to America. A very big role. And she gave donations also. But his first attempts to arrange a meeting were unsuccessful. Frustrated at being put off by Mrs. Morarty's officers, he sat down on the front steps of her office building, determined to catch her attention as she left for the day. The lone sadhu certainly caused some attention as he sat quietly chanting for 5 hours on the steps of Scindia's Steamship Company building. Finally, late that afternoon, Mrs. Morarji emerged in a flurry of business talk with her secretary, Mr. Choksi. Upon seeing Bhaktivedanta Swami, she stopped. "Who is this gentleman sitting here?" she asked Mr. Choksi. "Oh, he's been here for 5 hours," the secretary said. "All right, I'll come," she said, and walked up to where Bhaktivedanta Swami was sitting. He smiled and stood, offering namaskars with his folded palms. "Swamiji, what can I do for you?" she said. Bhaktivedanta Swami told her briefly of his intentions to print the third volume of his Srimad Bhagavatam. "I want you to help me," he said. "All right," Mrs. Morarji replied. "We can meet tomorrow because it's getting late. Tomorrow you can come and we will discuss." The next day, Bhaktivedanta Swami met with Mrs. Morarji in her office, where she looked at the typed manuscript and the published volumes. "All right," she said. "If you want to print it, I'll give you the 8. Whatever you want, you can get it printed." With Mrs. Morarji's guarantee, Bhaktivedanta Swami was free to return to Vrindavan to finish writing the manuscript. As with the previous volumes, he set a demanding schedule for writing and publishing. The third volume would complete the first canto. Then, with a supply of impressive literature, he would be ready to go to the West. Even with volumes 1 and 2, he was getting a better reception in India. Already he had seen the Vice President and Prime Minister. He had successfully approached a big business magnate of Bombay, and within a few minutes of presenting the book, he had received a large donation. The books were powerful preaching, and especially Srimad Bhagavatam, which is considered actually non-different from Krishna. So, slowly now Krishna is appearing. He is manifesting himself, first in the form of books and then other successes Prabhupada received. Janmashtami was drawing near and Bhaktivedanta Swami was planning a celebration at the Radha Damodar temple. He wanted to invite Vishwanath Das, the governor of Uttar Pradesh, to preside over the ceremony honoring Lord Krishna's appearance. Shri Vishwanath had received a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam, Volume 1, and had written a favorable review. Although a politician, he was known for his affection and respect for sadhus. He regularly invited recognized sadhus to his home, and once a year he would visit all the important temples of Vrindavan and Mathura. Bhaktivedanta Swami asked Vrindavan's municipal president, Mangalal Sharma, to invite the governor to the Janmashtami celebration at Radha Damodar temple. The governor readily accepted the invitation. Bhaktivedanta Swami printed a flyer announcing, on the occasion of Janmashtami ceremony at the Samadhi ground of Srila Rupa and Jiva Goswami, Shri Radha Damodar temple, Seva Kunj, Vrindavan, Gaudiya Kirtan performances in the presence of His Excellency Shri Vishwanath Das, Governor of Uttar Pradesh, and the Chief Guest Shri G.D. Somani of Bombay, Trustee of Shri Ranganathaji Temple, Vrindavan. Dated at Vrindavan, Sunday, the 31st August 1964 at 7:30 to 8:30 p.m. The flyer contained an advertisement for the Srimad Bhagavatam series to be completed in 60 volumes. Bhajans to be sung on the occasion, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu, Nitai Pada Kamala, the prayers to the 6 Goswamis, and other favorite songs of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas were printed in Bengali as a songbook. So nowhere it is mentioned that Bollywood songs would be sung. So this is something we have to be careful. And it's Krishna's birthday, his appearance day. How can we play on Bollywood songs? We can have kirtan, as many bhajans and kirtans from Gaudiya Vaishnava, the book, songs book. The program was successful. A large crowd attended and sang songs to Lord Krishna and took prasada. Bhaktivedanta Swami lectured on a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, describing the age of Kali as an ocean of faults that had but one saving quality, the chanting of Hare Krishna. After leading Hare Krishna Kirtan, Bhaktivedanta Swami presented a copy of his second volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam to the governor and spoke of his plans to preach all over the world. The day after Janmashtami was Bhaktivedanta Swami's 69th birthday. He was already 69 years old and running around. A few days later, Vishwanath Das requested Swami Maharaj to visit him at his mansion in Lucknow. It was a special occasion, and the governor had invited several sadhus and planned a kirtan program. He had invited a professional music group who toured India performing kirtans and giving recitals. One of the musicians, young Shishir Kumar Bhattacharya, was very impressed with Bhaktivedanta Swami. Shishir Bhattacharya, we were invited to perform kirtan in the governor's house in Lucknow. We had about 7 or 8 in our group. This was the governor's house, a big home, and I was sitting on a dais. I saw the governor, Vishwanath Das, and beside him was a sadhu who was old, what I thought was really strong. When I saw the governor sitting there, I came down from the dais and bowed him. Then I asked which subject he wanted to listen to. He said, let's have something about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then I said, I'm very glad you selected this. About 1/2 hour we spent on Mahaprabhu's Kirtan, and then we had our dinner in the big banquet hall on all silver plates with the governor's symbols on each of them. We sat together and I was sitting side by side with the same sadhu, and he introduced himself as Bhaktivedanta Swami. We discussed, and then the Swami presented me with the book Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhaktivedanta Swami said, I'm interested to propagate Krishnanam and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western countries. I'm trying to get some way to find some ticket. If I get, I'll go and I'll propagate Mahaprabhu's teachings. And he uttered this verse from Mahaprabhu, Prithvi te ache yat nagaradigram sarvatra prachar haive moranam. But I did not think he would actually be able to do it because he was very simple and poor. So Prabhupada might be, but Krishna is not simple and Krishna is definitely not poor. He can do whatever he wants to. With a manuscript for volume 3 complete and with the money to print it, Bhaktivedanta Swami once again entered the printing world, purchasing paper, correcting proofs, and keeping the printer on schedule so that the book would be finished by January 1965. Thus, by his persistence, he who had almost no money of his own managed to publish his third large hardbound volume within a little more than 2 years. At this rate, with his respect in the scholarly world increasing, he might soon become a recognized figure amongst his countrymen. But he had his vision set on the West. And with the third volume now printed, he felt he was at last prepared. He was 69 and would have to go soon. It had been more than 40 years since Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had first asked a young householder in Calcutta to preach Krishna consciousness in the West. So that was in 1922 when Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj told him. At first it had seemed impossible to Abhaycharan, who had so recently entered family responsibilities. That obstacle, however, had long ago been removed, and for more than 10 years he had been free to travel. But he had been penniless and still was. And he had wanted first to publish some volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam to take with him. It had seemed necessary if he were to do something solid. Now, by Krishna's grace, 3 volumes were on hand. Srila Prabhupada. I planned that I must go to America. Generally, they go to London, but I did not want to go to London. I was simply thinking how to go to New York. I was scheming whether I shall go this way through Tokyo, Japan, or that way. Which way is cheaper? That was my proposal, and I was targeting to New York always. Sometimes I was dreaming that I've come to New York. Then Bhaktivedanta Swami met Mr. Agarwal, a Mathura businessman, and mentioned to him in passing, as he did to almost everyone he met, that he wanted to go to the West. Although Mr. Agarwal had known Bhaktivedanta Swami for only a few minutes, he volunteered to try to get him a sponsor in America. It was something Mr. Agarwal had done a number of times. When he met a sadhu who mentioned something about going abroad to teach Hindu culture, he would ask his son Gopal, an engineer in Pennsylvania, to send back a sponsorship form. When Mr. Agarwal volunteered to help in this way, Bhaktivedanta Swami urged him, please, to do so. So this Gopal Agarwal, he had married an American girl. Come on. Some of the name is not coming. It's right there at the tip, but it's not coming out. Sally Agarwal. And they lived in Pennsylvania, Butler, a small town in Pennsylvania. And his father would ask him always, send sponsorship for this guy, send sponsorship for that sadhu. And he would do, although he's a Brajvasi, but still he decided to move to America and settle there. Srila Prabhupada, I did not say anything seriously to Mr. Agarwal, but perhaps he took it very seriously. I asked him, well, why don't you ask your son Gopal to sponsor so that I can go there? I want to preach there. But Bhaktivedanta Swami knew he could not simply dream of going to the West. He needed money. In March 1965, he made another visit to Bombay, attempting to sell his books. Again, he stayed at the free Dharamshala Prem Kutir, but finding customers was difficult. He met Paramananda Bhagwani, a librarian at Jai Hind College, who purchased books for the college library, and then escorted Bhaktivedanta Swami to a few likely outlets. Mr. Bhagwani, I took him to the popular book depot at Grant Road to help him in selling books. But they told us they couldn't stock the books because they don't have much sales on religion. Then we went to another shop nearby, and the owner also regretted his inability to sell the books. Then we went to Sadhu Vela near Mahalakshmi temple, and we met the head of the temple there. He, of course, welcomed us. They have a library of their own and they stock religious books. So we approached them to please keep a set there in their library. They are a wealthy ashram, yet he also expressed his inability. Bhaktivedanta Swami returned to Delhi, pursuing the usual avenues of book selling and looking for whatever opportunity might arise. And to his surprise, he was contacted by the Ministry of External Affairs and informed that his no objection certificate for going to the US was ready. Since he had not instigated any proceedings for leaving the country, Bhaktivedanta Swami had to inquire from the ministry about what had happened. They showed him the statutory declaration form signed by Mr. Gopal Agarwal of Butler, Pennsylvania. Mr. Agarwal solemnly declared that he would bear the expenses of Bhaktivedanta Swami during his stay in the US. So Krishna is making all the arrangements. But just to give one link, this Gopal Agarwal lived in Butler, Pennsylvania, where Prabhupada went and he stayed with him for some time. And then before moving to New York, now this Butler, Pennsylvania, small town, very, very small town, is the same place where recently, about 2-3 months back, when Donald Trump was shot at. It's the same town, Butler, Pennsylvania. And Donald Trump survived. Whether there is connection or not, I'm not saying that, but just to give a reference, this is the place. Okay, I guess we can stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, you all have safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri.
Hare Krishna.